and development. As you may be aware, the UN Youth Focal Point is developing the World Youth Report, which is going to address youth migration concerns. And as part of the process, we are supposed to have this Google Plus Hangout in order to have an interactive discussion with key experts in the area of youth migration and development. Today we have a number of seasoned experts and also some youth participants who are also going to share their experiences with us. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our panelists to everybody and also extend a warm welcome to people who are following us online, and also ask people to share their questions or their concerns on youth migration and development with us. So without much ado, I would introduce Bella Hovey, who is the chief of the migration section of the population division of UNDESA. Hi, Bella.
How are you, Michael?
I'm good. And then I would go on to introduce Joe Rispoli, who is the regional specialist on migration and development, and also labor migration at IOM Regional Office in Pretoria. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Michael.
Hi. And then also we have Daniel Peterson, who is the first secretary, permanent mission of Sweden to the United Nations. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Michael and everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
Then
That's
we
good.
have Lonek van Zundet. Hi, Lonek.
Hi, Michael. Well
Hi.
pronounced.
Thanks. And then we have Dinka Amorim, who is a young immigrant activist and also a founder of a youth organization based in Portugal. Hi, Dinka.
Hi, Michael. Hi, everybody.
Hi. We would like to encourage people who are following us on YouTube and the UN Google Plus Hangout page that you send in your questions for our key experts who are online and waiting to respond to your key questions or concerns. So we would like to go on to Bella Hovey. Can you tell us a little bit about what the population division of UNDESA is doing on migration and development, and what are the challenges and the opportunities that you have identified around youth migration?
Thank you, Michael, and thank you also for inviting us to be part of this youth consultation for the youth report. The population division at the United Nations in UNDESA, the main task is to provide information for the international community on migration, in particular in relation to development. We scope the issues. We are very much data-driven. It is very good and important to have individual stories of migrants, but that should also be complemented by some idea of how big the issues are, how large the impacts are, how much migration is going on. And that's what we do. We estimate global migration movements to inform the delegates here at the United Nations. And we also draw on existing research on the evidence how migration contributes or inhibits development, as the case may be, by organizing technical meetings with experts. The objective and impartial information for the migration debate and how it affects development is very important because as you're all aware, sometimes the debate gets very emotional, whereby one side of the story is magnified and other aspects are not shared or documented. So our aim is to provide a balanced picture to really see what the effects are of migration. There are normally both a lot of positive effects of migration for development, for countries of origin, for countries of destination, and in particular for the migrants themselves, which sometimes do not get enough visibility in the debate. And so that's what we produce, and we work very closely together with other agencies, for example, UNICEF, to look at youth migrants. Let me give you one example of an interesting project we did recently, is to see what the age of migrants are. We did not have global estimates on that, and by working with UNICEF, they now have an idea about how many young migrants there are in the various age categories in destination countries. It's very basic information, but it's important to inform policymakers and the international community about the scope of some of these phenomena.
Thank you very much, Bella, for letting us know about the importance of migration data in trying to also identify the flow of migration. And also, we are very pleased to hear that there is that kind of disaggregation of data from what you have said so far. I would go on to Joe Rispoli. Can you tell us a little bit about what IOM is doing in the context of migration and development, and also what you have identified in the area of the challenges and opportunities related to youth migration?
Yes, thank you very much, Michael, and thank you for involving IOM in this discussion. That's greatly appreciated. I just want to mention a few particular areas in which we work in relation to migration and development. I think one key area is diaspora. We really do a lot in terms of profiling or mapping the diaspora in many different countries, as well as outreach, conducting outreach measures vis-a-vis diaspora associations and confidence building measures between governments and diaspora associations, and then actually engaging the diaspora, mobilizing their resources so that they can contribute to the development of origin through knowledge, skills transfer, technology transfer, through their transnational networks and things of that sort. In addition, we hold a lot of policy dialogues on remittances to try and encourage money transfer operators and governments to try to be faster and cheaper and easier and safer and more reliable. And we try and encourage migrants, particularly migrant workers, to go through formal rather than informal means of effecting remittance transfers. So things of that sort. And then community and economic. We have a lot of community development programs. We work with a lot of NGOs and civil society organizations in terms of vocational training, skills training, and carrying out information campaigns to address root causes that relate to some of the challenges that the youth face when they're migrating. And so I think those are some of the main areas in which we work, but also we facilitate temporary labor migration programs, circular migration, and things of that sort. And we focus a lot on protection of migrants' rights as well. And just in terms of the key challenges, I would say irregular migration is certainly a key challenge. You have many youth who are not aware of training and employment opportunities that exist at home, and then they go in search of greener pastures, and often it's a very perilous and dangerous journey. And then the other one is sort of human trafficking, human smuggling, these sorts of things for forced labor, for commercial sexual exploitation, and domestic servitude. And so ultimately the opportunities would be the 3E approach that we have: engage the youth through mentoring and tutoring and giving them a voice and a platform at various community and national meetings, enable the youth through skills and vocational training, and empower the youth. Give them a sense of their own agency and their ability to make a difference in the lives of other youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joe, for that well-elaborated scope of what IOM is doing in the context of youth migration. I think you highlighted some key aspects of, youth participation, which is very much central to addressing the challenges that youth face in the context of migration. With that, I would go into one of the questions that we had from one of our online followers, and it has to do with pre-migration and information. And if any of you could, let us know what you are doing in that area, that would be very much interesting to learn from. So one of our followers online said some potential young migrants are sometimes ill-advised on the realities of economic and social conditions in destination countries, and lack of proper information can affect, the professional and social integration of young migrants. What do you think are the most reliable source of information? If Joe, you can let us know what IOM is doing in the context of this area. How can people trust the sources of information that they get, and where can they get reliable information?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I think that's a really excellent question and very valid. We first of all have been carrying out campaigns around the world. So we try and enable migrants to make informed decisions before so that they know how to obtain genuine travel and identity documents. They know how to migrate through formal and legal means. They understand that there are many unscrupulous agents and recruiters and brokers and middlemen and intermediaries out there whom they have to be. So we try and do this through drama performances, community meetings, TV and radio materials that get distributed to schools and to community centers, recreational centers, and so on. We try and work with many different community leaders. We work with the government at national level, provincial level, local level, and we work with a wide variety of partners. The thing that I think we do is we set up migration resources. We've set a lot of Balkans in particular through various projects. We've set some up in Africa. In Mauritius, in Mali, we've worked with the European Commission on one, Cape Verde, and other countries around the world in order to be able to provide information to potential migrants and to transit migrants so that, again, it enables them to take informed decisions prior to migrating.
Thank you very much, Joe, for this response. With that, I would go to Daniel Peterson. Daniel, can you give us a brief idea about the Swedish government's engagement in the area of migration and development, and if there is a particular focus on youth migration, you can let us understand this.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for inviting me to this very interesting event. Sweden is now co-chairing the Global Forum for Migration and Development, and this we are doing during 2013 and half of 2014. The Global Forum on Migration and Development is a state-led process that brings together about 160 countries annually to discuss how governments can work together to promote the positive dimensions of migration and also mitigate the downsides. During our chairmanship, our roundtables will address how migration can contribute towards positive social and economic development by looking at labor migration, steps towards empowering migrants, and better protection initiatives. Within these focus areas, questions related to youth and migration will be very much addressed in detail. In general, we are very positive to the opportunities available to the individual migrant through legal migration channels. The opportunity to work abroad can contribute to development, both for the country of origin as well as the country of destination, and also naturally for the individual migrant. That is if the conditions are right. Workers can acquire new skills, use the skills productively, and return with new knowledge and better opportunities. Skills and jobs are central to any development strategy, whether it is in the country of origin or the country of destination. Both of these countries have an important task to utilize the skills that individuals bring with them and create opportunities for professional development. When it comes to the challenges, I would say being part of a government in an EU country, we think that it is of utmost importance to continue to facilitate labor migration into the EU in the future, because the EU will continue to need labor from third countries in order to meet national labor market needs. And this, of course, goes to a very large degree with the need for youth migrants as well. And this in order to ensure that key competencies are available for the EU in the future. It is therefore, I feel, very important that the EU creates easily understandable and attractive systems in the area of labor migrations in order to remain competitive on the global labor market. And I also would like to chip in as regards the information that is provided. I really hope that our migration board is good at providing the good enough details for possible migrants that would like to come to Sweden and the EU area. And I think that we do that by providing information in many languages and hopefully very clear information as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for that well-elaborated point about what the Swedish government is doing. I will now go on to Lonek. If you can share some of your perspectives around migration and development, and if you have any particular experience in the context of youth migration, it will be good to hear from your perspective as well.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. I believe I'm the only one that is in the Asia midnight time zone. So good morning, good afternoon to you. And my name is Lonneke van Zundert. I'm originally from the Netherlands. I'm 34 years old, and I'm very pleased that that still qualifies as a youth representative. I think it's about 7 years ago that I left the Netherlands. I lived in Belgium, in Bangladesh, and now in Hong Kong, where I have been working over 4 years at the consulate of the Netherlands on immigration-related matters. I'm very happy that you invited me for this Google Hangout because we had some interesting discussions over the past 5 weeks online, and I'm happy to continue that tonight. I have, of course, my own experience being an immigrant, and at the same time, my work experience the last 4 years being in Hong Kong. So those two combined, I would say, key challenges, and you already highlighted a little bit, or actually quite a lot. At least in this region, it's human trafficking, it's irregular migration, it's people smuggling, it's the thin line between people smuggling and human trafficking. Of course, there are other challenges, that is lack of opportunities, lack of employment, lack of education, discrimination. I see challenges lying in the country of origin. Like, for instance, we have a big community here of domestic helpers that come from Philippines. They come in big numbers to Hong Kong. They leave their families, their husband. So I think one of the big challenges is also the impact it has on those countries, on the communities, on the families. But besides that, I think immigration also offers great opportunities, and I think they all arise from people that are highly motivated, that are willing to give up everything they have, everything they know, to move to a different country, to a different continent, to the other side of the world, and to make a better living for themselves, for their family. So it's a very interesting, dynamic topic, especially in this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lonek. It's great to have a youth perspective in this discussion, and also I think you've shared some of the challenges and the opportunities that migration presents for young people in this context. We would go on to Dinka. You are a very much active person in the field of migration and also trying to help young immigrants in Portugal to access healthcare. Can you let us know much more about what you are doing, and also some of the challenges and opportunities that you've seen around the work that you're doing?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank this opportunity for us in Portugal, in WebFish organization, to share our experience related to the migration. So far, what we are doing now, we are running the project since 2005 in Portugal, when I'm in Portugal from my homeland country. We are running some project to address to the African young migrant people living in disadvantaged neighborhoods, because most of them is come from African Portuguese-speaking countries. Then they live in some disadvantaged neighborhoods across the Libya, and they also face some difficulty. Most of them is the job opportunity. Most of the people don't have the documentation to the work. There's the problem of the accommodation. So basically, what we are doing is we are running some projects, some initiative related to the HIV/AIDS to these migrants living in this condition, because most of them think if you don't have the paper, you don't have access to the help. It's wrong. According to the Portuguese law, everybody has access to the help. But the big one is the most of migrants and the people working on health authority doesn't know the road. So the work we are doing is to inform, to engage, use some media platform like the radio show, the magazine, SMS, text messaging, social network about some basic needs to the African young migrant people to the access to the help. So this project we are doing in the partnership with a lot of NGO is based in different neighborhoods. We have the partnership sometimes with the local authority, and also some institutional organization help us to develop this initiative to raise awareness to the African young migrant people living in disadvantaged neighborhoods, most focus on HIV/AIDS, because Portugal is the Western European country that the HIV/AIDS prevalence is very high.
Okay, thank you very much, Dinka, also for letting us know about how young people are also playing their active role in addressing the challenges that young people who are immigrants in destination countries encounter. And it's very good that you highlighted the aspect of using the media to inform young people on how they can access healthcare and also getting them the right information. We would go into the other aspect of our discussion today, which has to do with the role of state and non-state actors in addressing the challenges of youth migration. So I would go into Joe, if you can tell us a bit about the role of state and non-state actors in addressing the challenges of that young people face in the migration process, like when they have to prepare to travel, and also when they are in transit countries or in destination countries, and even when they have to return back to their countries of origin. Perhaps maybe there are some challenges that young people encounter in the process, and it will be good to learn from your side on what IOM is doing in particular in this context, or how you are working with state and non-state actors within this context.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. I think here I want to stress that it's very important to have these public-private partnerships. It's very important to have a very wide range of state and non-state actors working together, including UN agencies, civil society, local and international NGOs, faith-based organizations, the media, the private sector. And one of the best examples I can give would be from my time with IOM in Ghana. I was there for almost 9 years, and I was a part of about 5 successive information campaigns which we carried out. And one thing that we really believe is that information is protection at all different stages during the migration process. You mentioned pre-departure, in transit, post-arrival in the country of destination, and then also return and reintegration. In all of those different phases, provision of information and sensitization and education is really, really crucial. And just to give you a concrete example of how there was this public-private partnership and how state actors worked together with non-state actors when we were implementing those information campaigns, I would say some of these campaigns were by UNDP, IOM, and UNFPA for some of them as well. And then we would also get the government on board at the national level. They would help us to design the information materials. They would distribute the information materials at the national level. They would hold national meetings, steering committee meetings, and so on, to guide the process of implementing the information campaigns. And also at the local level, they would be distributed at various, through community leaders and through traditional elders in various communities. And then we would also get the local NGOs involved in terms of implementing activities. And they would work with local youth associations in terms of putting on concerts, theater performances, local drama performances, film projections, getting TV crews there to the site and holding informational meetings, things like this. And then the private sector in terms of advertising was also very important. Sometimes they would give us radio spots or TV spots that they were documentaries that they would help us to put together, and they would contribute as well. And finally, the youth themselves. One thing that was so critical was right from the very launching of the information campaigns, we would involve the youth. I quite remember that we once asked a Ghanaian irregular migrant who had been in Libya. He had crossed through the desert together with his best friend and many others. And 9 months in the desert in Libya, he told a group of about 100 students, ambassadors, government officials, and so on at this launching event for one of our information campaigns. He told them how his best friend of over 20 years died in his arms because he didn't have any water or any food to give him. He started foaming at the mouth, he started to spit, and he died right in his arms in the desert after over 2 decades of friendship. And that was so powerful and so moving that everyone, from the students to the ambassadors to the government officials to the UN agency officials, everyone was in tears. And we actually sent him out as an ambassador among all the other youth migrant youth. We sent him out to the communities to go and share his story with them so that he would prevent them from becoming irregular migrants, and so that ultimately they would think twice before migrating without the requisite travel and identity documents. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Joe, for that activity that is going on. You've shared a very much rich experience about what IOM is doing in the context of information campaigns, and also trying to make sure that young migrants or potential immigrants are well informed before they embark on their migration journey. Perhaps, Bella, you can share some idea with us on the role of state and non-state actors, and particularly maybe with the UN, or the role of the UN and also the other UN agencies in addressing the challenges that young migrants face.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, let me add a little bit from the global perspective. The first way to make sure that state and non-state actors address the challenges and the opportunities of youth migration is to make sure that it's on the radar screen of the global community. This sounds a little bit strange because we all know it is a global phenomenon, and has that every country these days is a country of origin, destination, transit, and that there are lots of people either participating in migration or affected by migration. But it's only since 2006, which is 7 years ago, that this topic of global migration has been a subject matter at the highest level of the General Assembly as a separate item. And so that's very important that we now have a global conversation, actually. And not just a conversation, but also a follow-up process that was described by Daniel, this global forum of governments. So this is very important, to have it on the radar screen, to have these global discussions. And it's not just a matter of the past, but in fact, this October, 3 and 4 October, there's a second called High-Level Dialogue of the General Assembly on migration and development. And this is a huge opportunity, not just for governments to exchange views and opinions and experiences, but there is also, as part of the preparatory process, consultations with civil society. And that those are going to be held on the 15th of July, organized by the President of the General Assembly. And so we will open a registration, and we will have a very good program for civil society to contribute to this high-level event in October. So civil society is part and parcel of the debate, and it's very important that those opportunities are being used to make sure that your concerns are brought to the attention of the General Assembly. Let me give you another example. There is a discussion right now in the United Nations about the development agenda after 2015. As you probably know, the Millennium Development Goals are quote-unquote expiring, are running until 2014, 15, around that time, and we are now discussing a new development agenda. We know now that migration has a big impact on development. We have a lot more evidence for that through the remittances and otherwise. And so there are also a lot of preparatory meetings and consultations with civil society to inform that new agenda. So this is another opportunity where civil society, where youth themselves can make a contribution and set the agenda, make sure that some of those issues they find important are taken into account. Going to the state level, Michael, I think it's very important that we make sure that the human rights of migrants are respected. This is a responsibility of every state. There are certain conventions that they may have signed or not, but there are also principles in the Human Rights Declaration that apply to every human being, whether it's a migrant or whether it is a citizen, a resident, or whether it is someone in an irregular situation or a regular migrant. Anti-discrimination is one of the key features, and one of the things we have to hold governments accountable to is to make sure that they do not discriminate on the basis of legal status when it comes in particular to access to education and health, basic health and education facilities, economic rights, non-discrimination in the labor markets, equal pay, and so on and so forth. When it comes to non-state actors, let me give you an example. In my previous work, I worked for the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. Excuse me. And we did a lot of work on unaccompanied minors and separated children seeking asylum. And by collecting information on that and working, for example, with Save the Children in the UK, a very important NGO when it comes to protection of child rights, we were able to document the scope and the nature of the issue to make sure that the young migrants seeking asylum are identified separately from the general information, that we get an idea how many are there, where are they coming from, what are their needs. So by working with UN agencies, with civil society, we're able to actually put these items on the map by providing specific information, collecting them, and encouraging countries to document, but also to make sure that they implement the rights we all signed up to.
Thank you very much, Bella, for that expressions that you've made about also, considering the aspect of irregular migration and also respecting the rights of migrants irrespective of their migration status. I think this is a very much interesting perspective that you have brought on today's discussion. I would go on to Danielle. If you can share some perspective that you might have on the role of state and non-state actors in the context of addressing youth migration challenges, and if you have any particular reference or examples relating to young people, you can highlight them for us.
Thank you, Michael. The Swedish stance is that permanent migration is increasingly giving way to migration and mobility of a more temporary nature. And this is why it's very important that there is a legal framework that allows migrant workers to be flexible, and therefore this plays an important part of the policies to address the demands on the labor market as well. The Swedish government has worked with civil society organizations for decades to support initiatives aimed at promoting social inclusion. Save the Children, for example, in Sweden, and Caritas are one of many non-state actors that manage programs aimed at supporting families and youth throughout the migration process. To promote greater social inclusion, Since 2010, the Swedish government also partners with civil society organizations and local authorities to gather input and feedback from all kinds of grassroots organizations throughout Sweden on how to improve integration of newly arrived migrants, including youth, of course. This involves, for example, access to healthcare and social services, as well as education and employment opportunities for migrants. As far as youth are concerned, I mean, it's of course important to involve youths in Sweden when it comes to these grassroots activities, especially when it comes to the local and national supply of healthcare and employment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for that well-expressed idea about also what the Swedish government is doing. For the interest of time, we would move on to Dinka. If you can share with us some of your perspective on the role of state and non-state actors. I know you have been working with Staying Alive, and also if you could share with us some of the activities that you've been doing with maybe government counterparts in Portugal, that would also be interesting to hear from you.
Yeah, basically, I think what you say is very important. It's very important that the civil society, private sector, NGO, and government can work together in many approach. For instance, what we are running now is one project supported by one private institution, that is the MTV Staying Alive Foundation. That is one foundation, is based in UK. That supports many youth projects addressed to the HIV/AIDS. So the main idea behind this project, the name of project is the Youth Media, our response to face HIV/AIDS, is the way to use the media and is as a tool and a mechanism to face HIV/AIDS to these young people come from advantaged neighborhoods, because most of them are infected with the HIV/AIDS. That's why MTV was support us since 2009 to this project. So the main ideas in terms of activity of this project is to use the medias and other tools to engage them. We have what I've said before. We have the radio show. It's weekly radio show that we produce in the interview. We broadcast in the sport about HIV/AIDS. We interview the youth leader, the people working on HIV/AIDS. Then we have the SMS text message. The main idea is to send free SMS message to the African young migrant people we have in our mailing list, to some key messages about the HIV/AIDS, for instance, how HIV/AIDS can transmit, how to avoid them. It is some kind of message we use on the SMS text message. The Facebook page of the project is very popular among the young people, not only migrant people living in Portugal, but people from abroad. There are people from Angola, there are people from Sao Tome and Príncipe, my homeland country. There are people from Mozambique, Cape Verde, Guinea-Bissau, Brazil, and elsewhere. So the other activity of this project is organize some educational workshop. We organize it on the neighborhoods. We organize at the school that people can contribute a lot, and also can learn some information about HIV/AIDS. When I'm talking about this education workshop, I would like to say that in the output of this project is very positive, because we did some questionnaire before we start the workshop and after the workshop. When we compare the results, the skills and about HIV/AIDS is completely different in the before. That's why this is the one region that we need to continue. We need to work more with HIV/AIDS, and also we distributed condom free on some locate that the young people gather that, like on the nightclub, like at the university, like at the secondary school, like some address is very popular. So in this project is very positive. In last 2-3 years, we was awarded by the Young Social Entrepreneurs 2010 AIDS and Mobility. was awarded our project. And also last year, our project was nominated for one international award. It's a global tuner. And refuge. This is something that it is very important that the role not only for the private sector, but also NGO, government, and civil society can work together in the partnership. Because our project, all the activity is running in the partnership with the different migrant NGO in different the neighborhoods. So I think it is very important that we can work together.
Okay, thank you very much, Dinka. I would now go into one of the questions that we had from our online followers, and it has to do with the post-2015 and migration. And any of our panelists who is ready could respond in this regard. And it has to do with our follower is asking, can you share some perspective on the role of migration in the post-2015 agenda? And could there be some attention paid to the reduction of the negative aspects of migration, such as migrant smuggling, and also concentrating on the positive aspects, such as reducing the cost of remittances? So I don't know if any of our panelists has any idea or opinion to share in this regard on the post-2015 and migration. You have the floor.
Michael, this is Bela. Let me share a few. I mentioned briefly already at this point in my early intervention. And so indeed, what we have seen over the past 10 years, especially since 2006, a lot more evidence on these impacts of migration on the developed agenda. We should not forget that migration has always been part of the UN development agenda, but it was not included in that narrow set of Millennium Development Goals. Now, there may be a new set of sustainable development goals being formulated for post-2015, and the question is now whether migration or migrants can be part of that new agenda. And for that, I totally agree that reducing further the cost of transmitting remittances would be a very clear goal. There are other goals as well, such as reducing recruitment fees, make sure that recruitment agencies do not exploit, ensure that human rights are abided by. But if you think about migration and what the goal is of migration, it's actually a little bit more complicated than when you think about health and education, which we all know more access to it is good. For migration, it really depends on the needs of the countries of origin, of destination, and the migrants themselves. Labor market needs are not everywhere the same. We just heard from Sweden, for example, that there is an importance of promoting circular migration and temporary mobility in Europe, which may be very well the case. But in other parts of the world, it is long-term immigration that is still a very important part of their migration policies. So we all think that there is good reason to make sure that migration constitutes more explicitly a part of the future developed agenda of the United Nations. But we have to think collectively about how we would phrase that. Is it in terms of goals, or is it more migration helps families, for example, increase access to education? There is evidence, a lot of evidence from surveys, that migrant families receiving remittances are doing better when it comes to health outcomes. Their children can go to school because the school fees can be paid. So can we have more of those surveys to track, if you want, the contribution, the enabling of migration and remittances to these development goals? That is a second way of looking at migration and development agenda. And let me add very quickly a third way, which is a little bit as we are looking at trade in terms of reducing barriers. We know there are lots of barriers for migration, even for voluntary migration, whether it is costs in terms of financial terms, or whether it is other non-financial costs we can do a lot to make migration easier. So reducing barriers and increasing opportunities could be very well a third way to phrase migration as being part of the post-2015 development agenda.
Thank you very much, Bella. Danielle, do you have any idea to share on this regarding the post-2015 and migration?
Yes, I can be very short on this. Sweden sees migration flows as a key driver and enabler for equitable and sustainable global development. We now have, as far as the post-2015 process are concerned, we have our Minister Gunilla Carlsson for Development in the Secretary General's high-level panel. And within this, we have arranged a very good seminar on migration and development. And we really hope that this will be considered when the follow-up to the Millennium Development Goals are formulated. It is, however, very, very intense and advanced diplomatic process we are talking about. And maybe, I mean, it's not sure that we will have migration as one of the main goals for post-2015, but at least we should try to get migration-related aspects into some sort of sub-goals maybe, or get migration-related indicators as that supports the different goals. That's my take on it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Danielle. Joe, do you have anything to contribute?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, we have a number of areas in which we would like to focus when it comes to the post-2015 agenda. One would be enhancing evidence building and knowledge-based policymaking on migration. And here we've got things like data collection for comprehensive migration profiles, the development of national migration policies and migration and development policies, and other policies. It could be diaspora policies, remittances, and so on. Another one would be protecting the human rights of all migrants at all different stages during the migration process, as we were mentioning earlier. And here you need interstate cooperation. It's really crucial. Migration affects every country in the world, and you need bilateral agreements, you need regional agreements, and you need to have various migration-sensitive or gender-sensitive migration policies in place, or health-sensitive migration policies in place. I think this is very important. And you need to have the appropriate legal framework in place as well, governing migration and migration development issues. And then the other thing would be factoring migration into development planning frameworks, into poverty reduction strategy papers, into sectoral plans, national budgets, and things of this sort.
Thank you very much, Joe, for sharing with us your perspective on the post-2015 agenda and migration. We would now move on to issues regarding social inclusion and exclusion. And I would like to start with Lonek, if you can share with us what you think are the consequences of social inclusion or exclusion for immigrants in destination countries in particular.
Of course, Michael. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I first want to stress something else. I was very pleased to learn from all the other participants that the importance of including youth and women in the development of initiatives and policies, because I think migrant is such a broad concept. I'm a youth migrant. All the migrants that we have been talking about previous are youth migrants, but we have all different backgrounds. We have all different reasons to migrate. We have all different ways to migrate, illegal, legal. Our needs are different. So it's not going to be a standard success formula for all the migrants. So I'm very pleased to hear that an active participation will probably highlight that even more. Further to your question of the social inclusion and exclusion, I think social inclusion will have many benefits for other migrants in the destination country, for the destination country itself. We can benefit from different backgrounds again, from different experiences. We all have to add something else. On the other side, social exclusion and the problems that are related are disengagement of the society, no access to the services, no access to health, no protection, economic exclusion. All of this might lead to high crime rates, unemployment, maybe this generation, but also possibly for further generations. Social impact, mental well-being of immigrants, commitment, loyalty to the destination country. So I think it's very important to take these all into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lonek, for these great youth perspectives on social inclusion and exclusion. With that, I would go to Joe. If you can share some ideas around the issue of inclusion and exclusion for immigrants in destination countries or transit countries, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I think some of the positive consequences associated with social inclusion would be things like having the migrants be productive members of the host society and being able to contribute to economic growth. And then you have more social cohesion as well. You have less crime if they're able to do that. But also they're able to contribute to the development and hopefully the sustainable development of their countries of origin. I was talking earlier about diaspora engagement programming and things like the transfer of knowledge and skills and technologies and transnational networks and things of that sort. I think that's really, really important as well. And the more you have integration of migrants and migrant workers, the more you have social inclusion, particularly of the youth migrants, you're going to see that they're going to be able to contribute to a greater extent to the progressive development of their countries of origin through these transfers, but also through remittances, through financial remittances, but also through social remittances, ideas and identities and values and belief systems, and also through investments. We also try and engage the diaspora, for instance, for investment purposes, because they do have emotional attachments to their countries of origin. And also even through community development programs and things like that. So also they can contribute, the youth, to the development of the countries of destination in which they're residing and in which they're working, especially if they're productively engaged in the workforce there. They can fill these labor market shortages in critical sectors, health sector, education sector, and so on. And they can, again, contribute to economic growth. So social inclusion, I think, is very important. On the flip side, if you have social exclusion, there are some negative consequences associated with that. You have increased tensions, for instance, between the migrants and the host populations. Sometimes those tensions just grow worse and worse. They lead to many instances of crime. You have a lack of productivity. You have that these migrants and these migrant workers become an increased burden on social welfare systems and social safety nets. You find that the initial disadvantages that they face and the challenges that they encounter when they first go abroad actually pass on from generation to generation. And the tensions just get worse and can lead to things like even xenophobia and discrimination and more, which can lead to more isolation and alienation and vulnerability and marginalization of the youth. And then beyond that, you have them working more in the informal economy or the black market. That thrives, and what that does is it sort of lowers wages for the local population sometimes. It reduces employment for the local workforces, and it floods the local market with inferior products. So these are all some of the knock-on effects of social inclusion in a lot of instances. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much, Joe, for these well-elaborated ideas, and also concentrating on the practical aspects of what the IOM is doing, especially. Bella, we have a question here, which I think maybe you might be very much well in the position to help us. It has to do with how young people could play an active role in the lead up to the high-level dialogue. The followers that we have online would like to know how they could contribute to the process leading to the high-level dialogue.
Thank you for that question. It's a very important one, and I would say there are various ways to contribute. First, most governments, high representatives, will participate on the 3rd and the 4th of October in that high-level dialogue, which means that youth organizations, NGOs, but also other parts of society should work with the governments in preparations for their participation. So many governments I know have national consultations to prepare their positions that they will advocate for in New York. So I would say get in touch with your government and see and make sure that they consult within the country with the various stakeholders, employers, employees, youth organizations, and so on, for their position. Second thing is actually what some countries do is include youth delegates, for example, or migrants in their national delegations. Speak to your government and see whether there can be a migrant as part of the delegation to the high-level dialogue itself. Third is the mandated informal hearings of civil society I was referring to on the 15th of July. Our department, the ECOSOC NGO branch, will open a registration. If you represent a youth migrant group, if you want to be part of that consultation on the 15th of July, register and explain what your group is doing, and then hopefully you will be admitted to those consultations on the 15th of July. And third, I want to add is make sure that you advocate and advertise that event amongst yourselves. Think about what your position is, and in doing that, if I may, Michael, 30 seconds, is to stress that very often we see migration associated with problems, whether it's in destination countries or in origin countries in terms of poverty and war and lack of good governance, etc. But we should make sure that while we have to address the problems associated with migration, is to also instill upon people that it has a lot of benefits, that migration is natural, that it is part of development, whether it is from developing countries or in industrialized countries. Aging societies are going to need more than currently immigrants, whether temporary or otherwise, to sustain their labor forces, to make sure that the high level of dependence can be sustained. So to have a balanced measure, a message is very important, so as not to associate migration only with problems and negative aspects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bella, for letting us know how young people can be engaged in the upcoming high-level dialogue. I would now go on to Dinka. If you can let us know about the key message that you have from your side on how we can leverage on the beneficial aspect of youth migration while mitigating risks.
Well, I would like to say, just to give some good practice, what happened right now in Portugal is some other organization is doing is to include the migration on the something we can call in English some migration help desk. It's a some point that is in place where the migrants stay, and the migration can help other migrants to to the some information about the papers. And also it is important that other organizations done is to include some mediator on at the school and also at the hospital, and then can help the some migrants need the help. So basically, more specific about your UK message, I think it is very important that we need to include the migrants in all the decision-making process done by the government, done by NGO, done by the other civil society. And also, it's very important that immigration can do the project social to help other migrants in different perspectives on access to the health, on access to education.
Thank you very much, Dinka. Lonek, do you have any key message, any concluding remarks to share with us?
I know I have to be very brief, so I'm just going to say that I couldn't agree more with Bella. We have been talking a lot about the challenges and difficulties, and I definitely won't deny them, especially from what I've seen over the past years here. But from my own personal perspective, I'm a very happy youth migrant. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lonek, for that. Joe, do you have any key message to share with us? Just a brief one.
Yeah, very quick key message. I was talking about how information is key to protection at all stages of the migration process. Well, I think the possession of skills and knowledge for the youth is also very key to protection. And we need to sensitize the youth that this is the period for them to acquire the requisite skills and knowledge that will enable them to become more competitive in the global labor market and will add value to the labor market because it is very competitive and they need to be aware of that. And really, it comes down to basic educational opportunities, training opportunities, vocational training, skills training, entrepreneurial training, on-the-job training, business development and management training, training to develop viable business plans, these sorts of things that will help to, again, go back to the 3 E's of engaging, empowering, and enabling the youth. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you very much, Joe, for that. Danielle, we would go on to you, and if you could share a final concluding remark from your side, that would be great.
Thanks, Michael. Youth migrate for any number of reasons. In Sweden, our youth are curious about the world and wish to explore career opportunities in other countries or contexts. Their migration, be it permanent or temporary, is by choice, and this is something that we hope for all migrants in the future. We have to consider the fact that youth, and especially women and children, are particularly vulnerable to exploitation in these contexts. Safe and legal migration options should be our goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I would like to, at this point, thank all our panelists and people who have been following us on Twitter, Facebook, and then the UN Google Hangout page for being with us throughout the discussion. And we hope to learn more from young people who have been following us on the UN World Youth Report webpage. Keep your questions coming, and at some point in time, we will try to address them in the report. At this time, thank you very much, and we hope to learn more from you again. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.